Good evening. I'd like to call the Granville Exempted Village School District Board of Education meeting for April 21st, 2025 to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome this nice crowd that's here tonight, and I know you're going to stay for the whole meeting, so we really appreciate it. Everyone that's on Zoom, thank you. Take the roll, please.
Mr. Wolf?
Here.
Ms. Shaw? Here. Ms. Deeds? Here. Mr. Crum?
Here.
Mr. Miller?
Here.
Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
Second.
Take the roll, please.
Ms. Deeds? Aye. Ms. Shaw? Aye. Mr. Crum?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Wolf?
Aye. Mr. Brown, commendations.
Okay. Why, everyone's here. Almost. Good evening, everyone. I know it's warm in here, so we'll go ahead and get started. We have a lot of things to celebrate here today. So the first thing we'd like to recognize is the GHS competition team, cheer team, had a fantastic 2024 and 25. They earned 2 second-place finishes, a first-place victory, and a 4th place at OASSA state championships. At the AmeriCheer Grand School Championship, the following cheerleaders were recognized by the judges for their excellent performances during the routine. Aubrey Poling, Grayson Vogelmeyer, Carrie Moyer, and 3 seniors were also recognized for their senior leadership. Grayson Vogelmeyer, Hannah Huggins, and Caitlin Coney. The following cheerleaders were nominated by their teammates at the end of the season. For Sportsmanship Award, Gabby Ricardo, okay. Most Improved, Carrie Moyer, and MVP, Grayson Vogelmeyer and Aubrey Poling. Please come up and be recognized. Coaches, I know I see one coach over there, other coach, where is she? Come on up, come on up. Congratulations. This is where you form a pyramid. No? All right, just a picture then. All right, just a picture. All right, congratulations. Now, I love this next commendation because this is going to be the worst thing possible for him to have all you here to witness this commendation. So we're going to next commend a teacher that is well-deserving for the You Make a Difference Award. The Coggin Automotive Group creates and sponsors a You Make a Difference program in Licking County. It's the 26th year to honor local teachers from Licking County school districts. The main purpose of the award is to recognize recipients for their outstanding efforts to make a difference in the lives of their students. And what I love about this award is it's actually nominated by students. So this year's recipient was selected by GHS student Jack Chico. As written in the nomination form for Jack, being in his class felt different than any other class I was in. It was hard to forget what you learned because he brought history to life. He taught us to figure out things on our own, and his teaching methods still help me now. On the DC trip, he conversed with us often. He made it clear that he had very high expectations for our behavior. He also taught me that whenever I meet a veteran, I should always greet them and thank them for their service. I do this to this day. I will even go out of my way to do so. I appreciate and respect what Mr. Stewart built in us, and particularly in me, and I will use it for the rest of my life. We are pleased and very happy to recognize Mr. Dave Stewart, GMS Social Studies teacher, for the Granville Award of the Year. Yes, that was good. Appreciate that. Next, we are going to recognize indoor track and field state championships. So congratulations to the indoor track team and field teams that competed in the state meet. on March 8th. The women's team tied the highest finish in school history, placing 3rd place. State participants included on the girls' team, Audrey Ames, triple jump, 4x2, 4x4, Talia Barbudo, weight throw, Nora Carrington, triple jump, Isla Cook, 60-meter hurdles and 4x2, Elise Larson, weight throw, Annie McCracken, pole vault. Special shout out to the pole vaulters. I was one. Avery Ogg, 400 and 4x4, Sophia Poling, 4x400, Tori Reynolds, 4x200, Elisa Toninson, 3200, and Charlotte Turner, 4x200 and 4x400. The boys' team consisted of Corbin Bell, 400, 4x400, Nolan Cheney, 4x400, and 4x800, Joseph Day, 4x400, Landon Gibson, triple jump and weight throw, Connor Hare, triple jump, Diego Rapp, 4x800, Sebastian Rogers, 4x800, Caleb Sproul, 4x800, Cohen Stumps, 1600, and 4x400. So all of them can come up here now, and then I'm going to read some other podium finish information. All right, so 8th place, senior Avery Ogg in the women's 400. 6th place, Cohen Stump in the men's 1600, and freshman Alyssa Toninson in the women's 3200. 5th place, Isla Cook, Charlotte Turner, Audrey Ames, and freshman Tori Reynolds in the women's 4x400 relay. 4th place, Elise Larson in the weight throw. 3rd place, senior Nora Carrington made her way onto the podium for the 3rd year in a row in the triple jump. State runner-up, junior Annie McCracken, reset her own record in pole vault with a jump of 13 feet. Annie also qualified and competed in the Adidas National Meet on March 23rd, where she placed 3rd. State champions, junior Charlotte Turner, Audrey Ames, and seniors Sophia Poling and Avery Ogg won the 4x400, running a time of 4 minutes, 4 seconds, which is pretty fast. So congratulations to our indoor state championship qualifiers, and are the coaches here? I didn't see. I see one
have a
right there.
couple.
Coaches coming up.
There's a couple here. That's it.
This takes a long time.
You guys are gonna have to scrunch together.
All right, yeah, you gotta scrunch together.
Okay.
All right, congratulations. All right, next we move on to state wrestling. The GHS wrestling team had 2 state qualifiers this year, AJ Bergeron and Nick Ramirez, while both Sanchez brothers, Andy and Luke, were state alternatives. Nick finished the season with a record of 28-15. He was a sectional champ as well as Clear Fork Invitational champion. Nick took 4th place at the district, punching his ticket to the state. Nick was a 4-year varsity letterman as well as captain of our team and of this season. Andy Sanchez. Andy finished the season with a record of 40-10. He was champion of 3 tournaments this season, including being crowned league champion. Andy placed 5th at districts to earn a state alternative bid, and Andy was also a 4-year letterman and captain of our team. Luke Sanchez finished the season with a record of 23-12. He was champion of 2 tournaments this season, including the honor of sectional champion. Luke placed 5th at districts to earn a state alternate bid. We have full confidence that Luke will be our leader of our team next season. AJ Bergeron. AJ finished the season with a record of 42-8. He was a champion of 6 tournaments this season. He was a league champion, sectional champion, district runner-up, AJ becomes the third freshman in school history to make it to state and the first freshman in school history to place at state when he made it to the podium, earning 6th place. Are my wrestlers here? Okay, good. Excellent. Is AJ here? Because he had the coolest hair. Did anyone see his hair? He had, what was it, leopard? Was it painted like a leopard? Everyone saw it, didn't you? Okay, come on up, wrestlers. And I always say this, my dad was a wrestling coach for 20 years of Euclid. That's why I played hockey. Congratulations. All right, this is a new one for me, so I probably won't get this right, but girls bowling. This season was Granville High School's girls varsity bowling team not only established new school records, won their league title and won tournament titles, but for the first time in the school's history, they made it all the way to the state tournament. Senior and team captain Cameron Dixon led the team along with junior Sydney Cottrell, sophomores Jenna Evans, Nia Painter, Jill Brownfield, and freshman Maddie Wood to go undefeated in the Licking County League, 12-0, and 17-0 overall to bring home the league title. Just prior to the LCL awards, a tournament was held with all schools attending, and the team won both the scratch and handicap team honors in the 3-game event. In the Licking County League, Cameron was named MVP and Bowler of the Year, and her average was 175. Now, I can't even do that at Pins Mechanical on that little thing that helps you out. That's pretty good. Jenna won the high game and 2 high game series honors with a 258 and a 442 series. Both Cameron and Sydney were named to the LCL first team, while Jenna made the honorable mention team. Maddie, the freshman of the team, started on the JV team and won all JV honors with the high of 183 and set a 344 high average and a 148. During this, which she soon moved up to the varsity team. Also, Coach Rita Resick also was named LCL Girls Coach of the Year. There's a lot of other things here that I don't understand as far as the process, but during the league season, the team entered the Muskingum University High School Invitational Tournament, which they won after bowling 3 regular games, 5 Baker games, and a single elimination match. Who can describe to me what a Baker game is? Where are my bowlers?
You have 5 bowlers on a team.
Okay.
Everyone gets to bowl a frame out of 10 frames, so you get to bowl twice in one game.
Thank you. See, we're a learning organization. At sectionals, the team qualified 6th out of over 40 teams bowling to move on to districts. And in the district tournament, the team tossed a 239 Baker game, which was the highest Baker game rolled that day by all 32 girls and boys teams. The team then captured the final qualifying spot, finishing in 3rd to move on to the state tournament for the first time in Granville history. In the state tournament, the team finished in 14th place, while Cameron, with her 626 3-game series, finished 10th overall and was named to the 2nd team All-Ohio. The team set new records this year with the 17-0 record, team high team set of 2,044 and a high Baker game of 239. Jenna Evans set a new high game and new individual set record games with 184 and 258 for her total of 442. It was quite a memorable season for this Granville team, and they won't soon forget it. Congratulations on both.
two girls missing today.
There you
They're
go.
playing softball.
Okay. They're well-rounded. I guess.
Yes.
Excellent.
Okay.
Excellent. All right, next, boys and girls swimming. Here we go. The 2024-2025 girls and boys swim programs had quite a successful season. The girls team experienced a new challenge this season by moving to Division I. Finished 12-2 on the regular season, while the boys team finished 13-1 on the regular season. The girls team won the Licking County League meet for the fourth consecutive year, finishing 3rd at the sectional meet and 11th at the district meet. Lydia Sturgeon was named LCL Swimmer of the Year for the 2nd consecutive year and broke the LCL record in the 100 freestyle. Grace Largent also broke the LCL record in the 100 breaststroke and later broke the school record for the 100 breaststroke as well. Coach Hillary Paulson was named LCL Coach of the Year. The Blue Aces had 8 swimmers who qualified to participate in the 2025 OHSAA State Tournament. For the girls, senior and captain Lydia Sturgeon qualified in both the 100 and 200 freestyle, where she finished 12th in the 200 freestyle. Over the past 4 years, she has qualified to the state meet and in 14 events, earning all Ohio honors top 16 finishes 11 times, and also holds 6 LCL records. Lily Hislop qualified in both the 200 IM and the 100 butterfly, where she finished 28th and 20th respectively. Grace Largent qualified in the 100 breaststroke, where she finished 9th and set a new school record. For the boys, junior captain Nolan Schneider qualified individually in both the 100 and 200 freestyle, where he finished 13th and 7th respectively, and set a new school record in the 200 freestyle. Miles Baker qualified individually in the 200 IM and 100 freestyle, where he finished 23rd and 22nd respectively. The 200 medley relay of Andrew Bergstrom, Miles Baker, Nolan Schneider, and senior captain Eli Winterhalter finished 17th, and the 400 freestyle relay team of Eli Winterhalter, Oliver Rogers, Miles Baker, and Nolan Schneider finished 11th, earning all Ohio honors. Congratulations to these swimmers for their outstanding season. Thank you. All right.
I'm gonna move this way.
Congratulations. We had a pretty good winter season. This is great. All right, next, we'd like to commend our GHS All-State Music students. Tonight, we recognize several GHS band, orchestra, and choir students for being selected to perform in the All-Ohio State Orchestra, All-Ohio State Choir, and All-Ohio State Band at the OMEA State Convention. This past February, the following students were selected for the OMEA All-State Ensembles by auditioning from hundreds of applicants across the state of Ohio and countless hours of rehearsing their music with final performances at the Cleveland Convention Center. All Ohio State Choir, Sophia Shinka, Scarlett Woltz, and Luceo Alawale. Come on up. Ohio All-State Orchestra, Noah Sobczak, Owen White, and Ellie Hu Van Reeth. All Ohio State Band, Sungu Lee, and Maddie Homan.
of their music teachers are here, but congratulations. I'd have them come up and get a picture. Excellent. Congratulations. And finally, I get to invite up a representative from the Auditor of State's office, Suzanne Simpson, serving as State Auditor Keith Faber's Central Ohio Liaison on behalf of Auditor Faber, is here to present the Granville Exempted School District the Auditor of State Award with distinction to our Treasurer's Office and specifically for Triola. So, there you go. It's all yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here this evening on behalf of Auditor of State Keith Faber, but also your Central Liaison, Scott Brown. Scott wasn't able to make it this evening, and also the Auditor of State wasn't able to make it this evening, so I'm here on their behalf. And it's such a pleasure because I actually call Lincoln County home too, so to be here is an exceptional pleasure. I appreciate a few moments on your agenda this evening to celebrate a job well done. It is my honor to be here on behalf of Auditor Faber to present the Auditor of State Award with distinction to the Granville Exempted School District. Each year, our office is responsible for conducting more than 4,200 audits of our 6,000 clients statewide. This award places your organization in a select group of just 4% of our clients that qualify for this award. The Auditor of State Award is presented to local governments and school districts upon the completion of a financial audit that meet the following criteria defined as a clean audit report. I'm just going to read for you the criteria because it is a lengthy list. So the entity must file financial reports with the Auditor of State's office by the statutory due date without extension on a GAAP accounting basis and prepare a comprehensive annual financial report. The audit report does not contain any findings for recovery, material citations, material weaknesses, significant deficiencies, uniform guidance findings, or question costs. The entity's management letter contains no comments that are related to ethics referrals, question costs less than the threshold per uniform guidance, lack of timely report submission, bank reconciliation issues, failure to obtain a timely single audit in accordance with uniform guidance, findings for recovery less than 500, and public meetings or public records issues. This award represents the hard work of all of Granville's staff and employees who make every effort each day to attain accounting excellence. I should make you all very proud as residents here in the village and taxpayers. We'd like to recognize the council, administration, and finance department that have done an outstanding job watching over every dollar. What this truly means is that across the entire organization, you have the people and processes in place that understand fiscal accountability. Specifically, I'd like to recognize Treasurer Brittany Triola for her leadership, professionalism, and exceptional commitment to fiscal integrity. So on behalf of Auditor of State Keith Faber, I would like to present the Granville Exempted School District the Auditor of State Award with distinction. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Brittany does a fantastic job, and we appreciate everything that she does for our organization, so thank you. It's nice that all of you got to hear that little recommendation or commendation on behalf of the Auditor of State. That's great. So I just want to highlight a little bit about our school district, because I think we had a great sampling tonight. We had success academically, our teaching staff was recognized, our music department, and our athletics. We always pride ourselves on the whole child education, and I don't think that we had a better representation than tonight. So I hope you all feel great about what was accomplished, and I know that you work very hard in the classroom, but you also dedicate yourself out of the classroom for all these activities. And it's a lot of hard work, so you should be commended, and we appreciate you being here. Now, I told the student presenters that you would all leave so that they didn't have to be nervous when they were presenting tonight. Where are they? Raise your hands. They're out in the hall practicing. So, thank you very much for coming. If you do want to leave, now's the
Oh, I don't have my key with me. I didn't bring my keys. You gonna do it yourself?
All right, this team needs no introduction, but I will introduce them. We have a student project that is going to be shared with you tonight, and a proposal to include sheep in the land lab. As you're well aware, we have multiple goats in the land lab right now, and they are proposing that we include sheep now too. But I don't want to steal their thunder, but I know that they are getting their presentation queued up. I know that they've done their research. Do you want to pass out any documents?
Yeah, we have a couple of packets. We have about 3 or 4, so for
They can share, they're very nice.
I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get it on there, so we'll probably snag a packet from you guys.
I have copies.
Okay, good. Anyone else going on to their place? Good, okay. This is the blueprint for the shelter.
Oh, okay. Could you pass that out? I'll start it. Yes. Got hot in here.
Well, I know we're going to trust that with the
I
staff.
A lot of pressure.
And it got hot in here too. There's a lot of bodies here. You can.
Hopefully it'll air out a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to talk to the All right.
All right, sign up first.
I will let you roll.
I already passed it out. Thank you guys so much for having us. My name is Andy. This is Allison, Mackenzie, and Eddie. Today we're going to be talking to you a bit about implementing sheep into our land lab. So this will take place, of course, in the land lab at GIS. We will be keeping the sheep in the enclosure with the goats. They work very well together from the farmers we've talked to and interviewed and the places that we've visited. It'll be in the summer months. It's a bit time sensitive. We've talked with the breeder and we need to let him know within the next couple of weeks just because he has a couple of sheep on hold for us. They're around $200 to $250, including transportation. But we will get into that a little bit more with the funding slide that we have for you.
So next, we have a small and affordable shelter. It's going to be 3 sides just to keep them away from the harsh snow, rain, and wind. We have no need for storage. That's already in the goat shelter. And Mr. Lang has agreed to put some senior boys on the project, and they'll build it as long as we provide materials, and they'll put it in the land lab. So we're going to place it over here, which will give ample room, like, away from the goats in case they need to escape for a little while. And it's going to be facing away from the wind, just to keep them sheltered.
So the type of sheep that we're interested in getting are Katahdin sheep. They're very docile from what we've heard. They're hardy. They're really good with different types of weather, which is good for Ohio with how crazy the weather can be sometimes. And they're parasite resistant, which is very important. They're very good with handling sort of like parasites that could be a little pesky in the area. They're hair sheep, which is very important. That means that they don't need to be sheared at all. They'll naturally just shed. It'll go up into the wind, so that's another cost we don't have to worry about. And they graze on grass, weeds, and will be able to help with invasive species, which again is a big issue in the land lab at the current time right now. We have a couple of different species that are being difficult that the sheep will be able to help with a lot.
Okay, so the 2 techniques that we're focusing most on are mob grazing and rotational grazing, and using that both to promote a more sustainable and healthy ecosystem in the land lab. It's basically restoring the land back to before human development, human interference, and all that. So right now, the goats are just eating a woody substance underneath like the fruit trees and all that. And so if we bring in the sheep, they'll eat the grassy substance, which will mitigate the risk of overgrazing, and this will promote healthier and stronger plants to grow. Their waste will also act as fertilizer as it's distributed evenly across the area they're in, which will also help the plants to grow. This process will also create the continuous cycle of a sustainable food for them, as if there's more nutritious plants to eat, there will be less food on feed to be spent, and less fake food, if you will. It also lowers the maintenance of mowing. We did some rough calculations. We heard it was about like $20 for like an hour of mowing, and so far it takes like an hour to mow that one area of the land lab. So there's 4 weeks in a month. We're planning on having them out for like 7 months, and that would be around $560 we would save from that. So the other piece is the rotational grazing. We would section off parts of the land lab with this electro-netting, a portable electro-netting fence that we'll talk later about. And we will allow probably the sheep first to just trial run it, and then we can implement the goats too, and see they would eat the parts of the grass, and as we rotate them, it would allow for longer periods for the plants to grow and become stronger and healthier as their roots develop and go in the ground more. This will lead to more nutritious soil and healthier soil. Healthier soil helps regulate water. It helps the plants and animals that are living off that soil, and it's less vulnerable to pests and diseases as they do not like undisrupted lands. And this will therefore increase the plant diversity, therefore the biodiversity in that area. So for the curriculum aspect, we're going to put an informational graphic on a post.
You have some drafts of that.
There's a rough draft of it. And we're just going to put it in front of the enclosure. It's going to go over things like safety, to stay away from the electronetting because, well, they're small, little, well, or not. Anyway, and then we've also made some rough drafts of emails for the GIS science teachers to incorporate the sheep and goat curriculum. And Alex and I are going to be gone next year because we're seniors, but Evie and Andy could potentially do a mini presentation at the start of the next school year, just going over some of the basics about safety and about fun facts of the sheep.
So going back to what Allison said about the rotational grazing and the mob grazing, the way that we've done a lot of research into doing this successfully is by purchasing this electronetting. With this electronetting, we're able to move it where we want in the land lab, the sheep, the goats in it. So they're able to graze and do the rotational grazing where we want them to. This also is solar powered, so we want to help promote sustainable energy, and with that, like, we actually use the energy that we are getting from the sun. When we are planning on rotational grazing and mob grazing, this would be during the summer months, just to kind of keep a safety net around so there's not a lot of kids out there, not a lot of chance for them to touch a fence that is electrified. And we're hoping to get some more funding for this electronic because it is a little expensive, but it will be able to really help our ecosystem out there and give goats a great life. So more about that funding on our next page. We actually already have $1,200 from Kiwanis, pending school approval that would cover the cost of 2 sheets of shelter and the transportation from Mr. Hirschberger all the way down from Cleveland. We are trying to get some more funding. We reach out to Rotary, potentially some 4-H programs to help us fund the rest of our needs, like the fencing. With our medical needs, we do have the same vet from the goats, Lacey McLaughlin, who is willing to help us with our sheep as well. But that's where our funding is at. So.
All right, so a bit on the impact and how integrating sheep will really help the community and the land. It will provide opportunities for people to learn about mob grazing and actively helping the land. It'll give an example of eco-mimicry, which is something we talk about a lot in our AP Enviro class. And we really want to practice what is preached in that class. We don't want Mr. Wright to have to come in and talk about all these things we can do for a sustainable land and then have students say, well, why aren't we doing that right now? And how could we do that in the land? It'll be a good learning experience about how animals can get along and cohabitate and respect that they have for each other naturally. Who is the more dominant species, which in this instance would be the goats. They're a bit more aggressive than the sheep, but they're able to balance each other out really well from what the farmers we've talked to have said. It'll be an intermediate school opportunity to show students how to interact with different animals. I think respect for animals is a really big piece of this. We don't want kids to go around and push sheep or anything like that. It could be a really bad experience, but that is something that Abby and I next year we would be able to go in and have a conversation with the students and how they should really be able to treat the animals and how they can learn from things like this. And overall, it'll help with the land. It'll help with invasive species. It'll help Mr. Reddick from having to mow. And it'll be able to really...
That's the whole point.
Sorry, I'm going to throw you under the bus. But that's really what we're trying to get at for this. So thank you guys so much. And if you have any questions, feel free to let us know.
Is there anything that that could be noxious?
Sorry?
Is there anything that they could get sick or die from?
Not from anything that we've heard. From the different farmers that we've talked to and spoken with, they seem to be really good about eating specifically like the certain type of grasses that are out there, like avoiding the woodier substances. And we haven't had a problem with the goats either getting into like bad things, like different supplies in their shelter and things like that. So from what we heard, that doesn't seem to be a problem.
Is poison hemlock an issue out there yet?
There is poison hemlock out there, but with the netting that they've come up with, we pick and choose the areas that we would allow them to graze. So we could definitely avoid those areas, and that's easy to do.
It just is getting worse and worse.
It's getting more. Ironically, where we can burn, we don't have poison hemlock. The areas where we can't, U.S. Fish and Wildlife has been actively spraying and treating that on the land lab. So it exists off where parts they don't control, but inside we've been on top of that pretty well.
Okay, good.
So,
Thank you.
I have a question. I'm just curious. It sounds like next year there's a transition into do you see a transition down the line on this? So Mr. Redding's not taking care of the sheep all by himself.
Yeah. What's really nice about this is that, of course, we have 2 seniors with us right now. But I know Eddie's involved in sports. I'm not. I will definitely be able to take an active part in this as well, so it doesn't just have to be Mr. Redding next year if some kids don't want to take on the project. But, as we've seen from students in the class right now, it's a very fun opportunity to be able to learn about these animals. People were very active about wanting to help take care of the goats that were implemented a couple of years ago from former students and stuff like that. So I could help, and we could talk to other students and help inspire them to learn more about this as well, and possibly take that on as their passion project for AP Enviro.
we've had a team every year that their responsibility is the goats.
And I have one other question, I'm from Cleveland originally, so I know nothing about farm animals. What happens if, I know you say the goats and the sheep get along, what happens if one of the goats and one of the sheep don't get along? I mean, what do we do?
From the farm we visited, they do have Teton sheep and goats, and they said they never really had an issue. Like the goats will kind of butt heads a bit with the sheep, but the sheep know to kind of stay on their side, and the goats are a little bit more dominant. If it was something where they were having issues, we could always try to separate it with the electronetting, like split the area into two if we needed to. But we're really hoping that doesn't happen, and from everything we've heard, it shouldn't.
Well, and what's nice is we'll be able to socialize them as lambs with people and also with the goats. So instead of just bringing in fully grown ewes and having it kind of be a very sudden, oh, we have other animals and different species to sort of learn boundaries with, they'll naturally be able to get that as they grow older.
And on top of that, the breeder has also mentioned that by the time we get them, he'll understand their personalities and he'll give us a sheep with the personality that won't get into trouble like that in any way.
Great.
What's the lifespan?
10 to 12 years.
Did you say how many?
What's the long-term cost of feed through the winter?
From what the research we've done, they really don't eat a lot of grain. It was the bag that we found could feed them, I think, 8 months, and they would only need it for 3-4 months because the rest of the months they would be out grazing. So pretty low cost, kind of put it on with the goats as well because they eat some grain, but they also do eat hay, sheep will, so kind of pick and choose what we want to do.
I know you mentioned the electronetting.
Mhm.
What type of education would we have to give our GIS students either to stay clear, don't play with it,
Right.
no metal, things like that?
Yeah. We would definitely go out. There's signs that we can purchase that say that it's on and live and can shock you. We wouldn't do it while school's happening. We can kind of keep it primarily in the summer. And we wouldn't leave it up for more than a few hours at a time. Just like they would always go back in the goat enclosure at night.
And we want the voltage to be highest when the lambs are the most young, so they learn quickly. And when we get them, it'll be during the summertime anyways, when more students are out in that area. So when there is the highest voltage, there really won't be any students out there, but we would still want to get the sign, so anybody that does come to the land lab doesn't have to just grab it and test it out. I don't know why they would, but
Every farm kid in the world is.
yeah.
I think this is an outstanding presentation, first of all.
Yeah,
Thank you.
And I love how on your signage, you're looking for more sponsors. That's a great idea. So you have 1,200 from the Granville Kiwanis.
I thought we did that.
Yeah, we were expecting that, right?
I'm always expecting the Rotary, but I'm disappointed. Are there additional costs here that you're looking for in the budget, or?
Basically what's in our chart is everything we've calculated that we would need. We did give a little safety net in there for like medical needs and stuff, just because none of us have sheep. We don't really know what their problem is. Just a little safety net that we could put away. Like that's only for medical needs. We wouldn't touch that. It's not really on our forefront. We kind of want to get the sheep shelter and that netting, but
Our main focus right now is just getting the sheep in there. It can also, the electronetting can be a take action project for next year if we don't end up getting the funding. I think we probably will, but if we don't, that can always be a next year project. Just as, so we can raise the lambs and get them older before we start raising.
So the 1,200 that Kiwanis donated. I'm a Kiwanian, so. And we're really glad to participate not only in this, but all the school activities. The 1,200 will get it started.
yeah,
Great.
cover the sheep and shelter it. Mr.
Perfect.
Hirschberger did.
Terrific.
And long-term, is this an expense that goes through academic funds or building funds, or if there are long-term needs for expenses? It's
Also has a magic,
Let Jim
yeah.
answer that question.
money tree out in the land.
It's special, it's very special.
Can you come over to my house?
I mean, they're gonna continue to chase the money. We do have funds available through other projects and other donations, and luckily, I mean, the community's been very supportive, so, you know, and, you know, can I write a check for this, can I write a check for that? So we have a fund that I haven't really told them about, that we could probably get if this doesn't work out.
Okay.
But yeah, I do think there's other, I mean, they're actually looking at Go Green as well, which has a $5,000 or $50,000 towards electricity. So that's a possibility. So there's other ways they can get the funding for the electric fence taken care of. But as you guys have stated, that's part two of this. You know, just maintaining the grass within the enclosure would be helpful, and it is. I mean, it is, you know, it takes an hour to mow it, $20 an hour, you're gonna pay someone to do that. So if you do that once a week and you don't have to go in there and mow anymore, the goats can't, they've done a really good job of mowing the fruit trees. They haven't done a really good job of mowing keeping the grass down, so that would be an added plus. And as I also mentioned, the sheep are actually much better because they feed on grass and they're gonna feed on the hay, right, over the winter, much less grain. So the bigger expense for the goats is grain through the winter, and that is an expense, but then they're looking, you know, the goat group is looking at ways, some fundraisers and that sort of stuff, to get money to feed the goats, you know, they're sell t-shirts, feed the goats kind of thing. So we'll get money that way. It's a thing, it's a real thing.
It's great that we have a lot of support. I just want to make sure we have, you know, continued support for all of this stuff that happens in the land lab, and it, you know, it happens because we reach out to a lot of different people, and it's a big part of the work and effort and so forth, but it's an important one to make it sustainable long term. So,
And I'd also like to point out that we have a person that's going to be a new hire on our agenda tonight, who's going to be at the high school. And she got to experience exactly what we have our students do, which is present their ideas. Sometimes they get the green light immediately, sometimes they have to go back to the drawing board, but we want to empower our students to engage in learning that's meaningful to them. So you clearly were passionate tonight about articulating your desires, and I don't think it's about a grade. I think it's about bringing the project to completion. So thank you very much for presenting tonight. Second time I heard it, and it was even better.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Good job, guys.
I don't know if we're clapping for Brittany.
And now our award-winning treasurer is up next. Yes. As Brittany is getting set up, I do want to introduce the board to Kim Gary. And I'm doing that intentionally because we're going to go into executive session after this presentation, and I don't want her to be here all night. So probably the one time I'll be really, really nice. No. I'm just kidding. But Kim is on the agenda for the GHS Library Media Center position. Comes to us from Northridge. We are extremely excited about her joining the Blue A's team. So I just wanted to put a name with the face. So we're very excited to have her. So don't feel like you have to stay after we go into executive session, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Well, once you're approved.
Yes. We'll let you know if you're approved. All right. Yep.
All right. Okay, March financial report for our cash balance. We are about $1.1 million above where we were last month. We're continuing to build that cash balance. We're also at our second highest point of cash through the year, having received our property tax settlement this month, and then we'll start to spend down again from here. Just wanted to highlight that, especially this month, as I give you an update on the state budget process later on in the presentation. It's important to understand our cash balance and the swing from month to month throughout the fiscal year.
Is the state budget consideration only with year-end cash balance, which would be June? Is that the way
Yes.
they're gonna measure it or whatever?
Yes.
So for just the month of March compared to last March, local taxes were down. If you remember last month, they were up. It's just timing between the 2 months, how much came in February versus March. But then when we look at year-to-date, local taxes, which includes the income tax as well as property taxes, up over prior year, as both of those had slight increases. And then state revenue and all other are pretty much in alignment with last year. On the expenditure side, very much in alignment with prior year here as well, after accounting for our normal salary and benefit increases that we see each month. And on the year-to-date expenditures, again, salary increases, steps, and additional staff that we've talked about previously. Purchase service with inflation as well as our special education contracts are up this year. And then all other expenditures has the difference for the capital projects fund transfer and the difference in those amounts from last year to this year. So after adjusting for those transfers, expenditures are actually up 1.5 million over prior year, which is in alignment with the forecast and where we would expect to be at this point in the year. Speaking of capital projects fund, we did have another small payment this month towards the upcoming project at the high school over the summer, but largely we'll start to see those payments come in once they start working in June. We have our cash reconciliation, nothing to note on that. But then I did want to give an update on the state budget bill. So it's probably been a couple months since I last reported on this when we had the governor's version of the bill, which, if you recall, was to essentially phase out the guarantee. So it would be reducing our state revenue. Under the House's version of the bill, we are actually looking at having a reduction in our property tax revenue. So under their proposal, state revenue would stay the same, but property tax revenue would be reduced based on our cash balance at June 30 each year. So it would be capped at, your cash balance would essentially be capped at 30% of your previous fiscal year total expenditures. So what does that mean? It means we would see a significant reduction in revenue and in our cash balance over the next 2 fiscal years. So much so where it would significantly expedite the need for an operating levy after considering our cash balance policy. So the graph on the screen is what we typically look at with the 5-year forecast. I simplified it a little bit by taking the historical years off just so that we can focus on the part that really matters here. Also, on here, the green line, the cash balance with renewal, just keep in mind that that includes the income tax renewal. So if that were to not be renewed, once we get out to 29, that's even lower. So I really want to draw your attention to fiscal year 27, because this is where we see the significant increase in the time, moving the timeline up. So I have the little arrow here to show the difference between the green and the red lines, which are our cash balance under the 5-year forecast is the green, and then the red is our cash balance under the House's version of the bill. And as you can see, that red line is well below the orange line, which represents our cash balance minimum. So in that year, essentially, this is showing that we would be well below what our policy says we should have for cash on hand, which then, if you back that up, means that we would need additional revenue prior to that, which basically means next year. So by going after cash balances, it is fundamentally at odds with how specifically our funding works, because we live off of our cash balance. So it's really important to not only understand that, but also watch as this evolves over the next couple of months, because this is still very much in the middle of the process. It will next go to the Senate, but they don't anticipate voting on it until about the first week of June. So it's really going to be down to the last couple, maybe even days of the fiscal year before we really have a picture of what our finances are going to look like for the following month, starting in July. We have been working with our representatives, communicating the issue, of course, and sharing with the community as well at our community meetings. So just wanted to give that really, positive update, as I always have for you guys, on the budget process. So any questions on that, or anything, Jeff, did I miss?
No,
that you want to add to that?
I think, to the board's credit, you have, based on your fiduciary responsibility, articulated a cash balance policy that has a minimum and a maximum and a required plan, which would be excellent as a way to help shape cash balances if a legislative body wanted to do so. Because I think that makes actual sense related to the run rate for each school district. Local control matters, and local decision-making based on your local context is important. So, kudos to the board and Brittany in crafting that cash balance policy.
Is there any talk, chatter of that being brought up in the Senate in their bill?
Yes, we've articulated that perspective. We hope that it gets advanced as a concept across multiple entities, so we're hoping.
So there's more than just Granville promoting?
Absolutely, yes,
Good.
absolutely.
Yeah, the state professional organizations have especially advocated for districts implementing the cash balance policies. OASBA specifically has a whole white paper document which we use as a template for our policy, and they just reiterated at the state conference 2 weeks ago the importance of that for this exact reason. So,
And I have one other question about the capital expenditure fund that we have.
yeah.
Is that, how will that look?
Is it only operating?
Yeah.
Is it only operating?
Yes. So the way said is that the House heard from school districts, our state funding is decreasing, we can't have state funding decreasing, so they responded to that by giving guaranteed funding. And they're not eliminating the Fair School Funding Plan. It will still exist, they just won't fund it.
What is the rationale for this proposal?
Property tax relief for residential taxpayers.
There are many school districts with, I would say,
So we have to
excessively
go
high
back
cash
for
balances.
another levy to get property tax relief.
Right. So the thing that's really challenging about this proposal for Granville is that we're not on the 20 mil floor. This is mostly to address districts that are on the 20 mil floor, who are seeing a significant increase in their property tax revenue. That's not how we operate. So it's fixing a problem that doesn't exist for Granville. And essentially what it would require us to do, yes, is to have our millage on these existing levies reduced, but then turn around and have to ask for new millage immediately for a new levy. And it would essentially cap how much the millage could be, because you would never want to exceed the 30% again. So you would be looking at being on the ballot more frequently for smaller rate than what we may have seen historically. I think districts are doing their best to communicate to their representatives the impact. I think there is a lot of shared concerns about the process logistically from other entities as well, such as county auditors, who would be responsible for this calculation annually, as well as responding to taxpayers who get their tax bill one year and have potentially zero for the school district portion of their tax bill, and then the following year it would ramp right back up to the previous level. So I think they're hearing from stakeholders about some of the concerns. Whether and how responsive they are to those, that will be the key. I think there was also some confusion too, because the original bill included 25% as the threshold instead of 30. And the speaker stated that number came from treasurers, which I believe the number did come from treasurers as a minimum, not as a maximum. And that's important. So, any other questions?
Yeah, this is a challenging problem across the state, and they're
Yes.
trying to apply one model to all districts, and we have very different financial models and things like that. So the first time potentially this would apply would be the end of fiscal 2026.
No.
It's this year.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah, okay. Well, that's exciting.
Correct.
And so what is the magnitude of our cash balance is supposed to be, what's 30% of our operating budget?
So
that's
the implication for the first 2 years is 6 million, a little over 6 million. And here's the really weird thing about the timing and logistics. So the cut based on our fiscal year 25 cash balance would be, let's call it 6 million. But they can't do anything about that until the tax rates for 2025, which are collected in calendar year 2026, which is half of fiscal year 26 and half of fiscal year 27. So the full reduction doesn't even hit our books until fiscal year 27. Well, by then, our fiscal year 26 cash balance is also going to be above the 30% because we haven't had the full reduction yet. So it remains to be seen whether then we would have another potentially $2 million cut for tax rates for 26 collected in 27, halfway between fiscal year 27 and fiscal year 28. So anywhere probably between 6 to 8 million over the next 2 to 3 fiscal years is what the impact would be.
Yeah, so I think the board in the past has drove to not have property tax levies, but every 5 years roughly, right? And that just doesn't work in this model, right? And so we would be talking about like every 2 years or
Yeah,
something
probably
like that.
1 to 2 years.
Because the difference between our minimum and maximum cash balance is like the fine line you have to sort of thread to some extent.
Right.
So that's a different model.
I like to refer to it as the paycheck to paycheck model.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly what it would be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's not property tax relief,
It's not.
because we'll still require the same amount of property tax revenue to function. It's just a timing of when property tax payers will pay it. Are they gonna pay it now and we get to have financial stability and educational stability and maintain programs and plan for the future? Or do we have to get it over time and question at the end of every year, are we going to be able to maintain programs?
And it's a short-term drain of excess cash balances.
Yeah, it's basically a
one.
one-time fix, because nobody will go above that
Right.
ever again.
Right. Okay. $6 million. And so, I mean, this is, like at the end of this year, will be $6 million in excess of 30%.
Yeah.
Which is basically our run rate. That's why that graph is so important, because in Granville Schools, who is not, we're not on the 20 mil floor, we have a run rate that shows across that 5-year forecast pretty easily. You truncate that run rate and you're out of cash. So your run rate shrinks down. So $6 million is almost a year and a half of funding.
So I think we've talked generically about when levies would need to be under the current forecast. That discussion, correct me if I'm wrong, was something like income tax renewal on the ballot late next year, or next year? 27, right? And then we were counting on a property tax levy following that, depending on inflation and lots of things and so forth.
Yeah.
Right, so we would be spacing these out. This would mean that we would both have the income tax renewal and potentially a property tax on the ballot in 27 or even
If-
sooner?
if
No, you have to
nothing-
have the property tax sooner.
Yes,
You
if
have to have
nothing
property
changes
tax.
with this, we would need a property tax as early as May of 26,
Right,
a year from now.
right. Okay. Yeah,
I don't like the sound of that.
yeah. Yeah, that's good, it's gonna be a little hard to explain.
Well, let's hope that we don't. Let's hope that the
Yeah.
Senate has some different ideas, so.
Yeah, I mean, they took an absolutely impossible topic to explain to people and made it probably 10 times
more
more.
challenging.
Yeah. Really.
Right, so not only would it be the property tax on the ballot next year, it would be every other year from there on out.
Correct.
Yeah. Instead of every 5 years, which is
So
something.
there'd be
that's
no levy fatigue at all.
Maybe you just have to get them voted, you know, like maybe you don't put it on every year, and like
Yeah.
pass a year when you can't, or something like that, I don't know.
That, honestly,
Right.
from a fiscal standpoint, that would be more prudent,
Right.
because then
Because you put a tiny one every year.
Exactly, then you run the risk of, if you skip a paycheck,
Yeah,
you're devastated.
right. Because
So
instead of going
go
from
smaller and more frequently.
From
almost
30%
every
to
year.
10%, that's a little scary, right? But if you go from 30 to 20, to 30 to 20, to 30 to 20,
Yeah.
like that might be a more sustainable model.
I don't like that one.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Okay.
Well, you earned your award tonight.
Definitely. Congratulations on your award and
Thank
your
you.
staff.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, and we're going to talk a little bit more during the board discussion about facility master planning and so forth as well, so we'll have a chance to address it. Yep.
So we need to entertain a motion to go into executive session?
And would you like to read the reason why?
Oh, I'm sorry. To review negotiations or bargaining sessions with public employees concerning their compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment.
It was moved by Amy and seconded by John. Thank you.
Is this a yes or an aye for executive?
Whatever you usually do.
Okay. It's an aye, okay.
You take the vote.
Ms. Deeds? Aye. Mr. Cron?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Ms. Shaw? Aye. Mr. Wolf?
Aye. And there will be further action coming out of executive session on the rest of the agenda.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll be back.
Maybe.
Glenn, this is where
Yeah. Start with this.
Michelle, the wits, it was prime.
I'm gonna tell Frank you're stealing from
Aren't
his
you
mom.
supposed to bring enough for the whole class?
That chicken sandwich, you went with it.
Flavor of the woods.
Yeah.
Okay.
I believe we're at public comment.
No. Okay, this is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business, and is not to be considered a public community meeting. There is a time for public participation during the meeting as indicated in the agenda. See Board Policy BDDH-R, Public Participation in Board Meetings. If anyone would like to address the board? Okay, not seeing any, we're on to board discussion.
Okay, I just wanted to place a pin in the facility master planning process conversation for the board. We, on April 15th, had our third and final community input engagement where we looked at 4 different options. What I would say is, just like with most processes when you're talking about change, people know what they don't like. They don't necessarily articulate what they do like. So we put out a survey with the presentation and the video on the facility master planning process page on the website. So we're collecting survey data or survey information now on the options, pros and cons, so that we can aggregate that information at our next facility master planning task force meeting, and then at some point, probably probably June, we'll have a conversation about the roadmap moving forward based on the feedback that we've received. So, as I articulated in the facility master planning process multiple times, this plan will be written in pencil and it will adjust accordingly to the landscape that we are facing from a growth perspective. We had about, I would say, 60 to 80 people involved in that process, but we are getting feedback online as well.
Good.
Any questions about that?
It was a great meeting, so thankful that so many people in the community came out on each one of our meetings and has given other feedback online and things. You know, you hit it on the head, like, I don't think people are really super excited about the growth, and there was lots of things in the con section, but very few in the pro. I think that the costs that were presented for each of the options were only the building costs, right? I think it would be really worthwhile to figure out how to, or have some basic questions about operations costs. And my assumption is that operations costs really just flow with the number of buildings, right? Because each additional building, you're going to have an incremental, you know, staff members to do everything from health to the principals, administrators, and so forth, correct? So I don't think there'd be significant differentiation in those different choices, the 4 different plans and operations costs.
What I would say, as far as like
It is what it is.
the building itself, I think they would all be pretty comparable, but I think there would be differences specifically with transportation
Right.
in some of the options.
Yeah.
And even transportation and logistics, which could have costs associated with it in terms of athletics and other extracurriculars based on a middle school being located away from a high school. So there are some like differences like that that are going to be hard to quantify at this stage, but I think you're right in terms of the actual instructional costs.
Yeah.
They would probably be pretty comparable in any of the options.
And there was a lot of speculation by a lot of people about what would be good or bad from a transportation perspective, and whether that was in my backyard or not, or whatever, and so forth. So I think it would be really beneficial to have more quantified understanding of transportation, time, traffic implications, and cost. And I'm not sure how to do that model, but maybe there is some kind of model where you plug in addresses and you plug in of the students, and you plug in addresses of the buildings, and it tells you how many buses or hours or cost or miles or whatever. I don't know how to do that, but it
Yeah,
seems like that would be really beneficial.
It is, there are some models that are inherently going to be more expensive from a transportation standpoint, but without knowing how many buildings or how many students are coming from what region,
Yeah.
it's hard to model that.
Yeah.
But we do know that, in any model that we're bringing all the students from the south up north, it's gonna be more expensive from a transportation standpoint.
Yeah.
So there's differentiation within the options, so I think we can speak to that a little bit, and especially when we start talking about the options realistically from a design build standpoint.
I think there was just a lot of people that were like, okay, one of the options is Munson Springs, and some people were like, oh, that would be horrible from a transportation perspective, because everybody's going down North Granville, and other people were like, oh, that'd be fantastic from a transportation perspective, because everybody's going up Northwood, right? And so, I think we have some impressions where our population student density is or could be, and it might be interesting, at least to like in a generic swath, say, yeah, this would actually not be so bad, right? Or here's the implications of all the buildings out of GIS and so forth, right? Because it seems like there are some pretty big, or like what the benefit would be to a more centralized middle school if that land could be found, right? And so I don't know how to, again, crank those numbers a little bit. It might really help eliminate some of the speculation that people had of the advantages and disadvantages. Because much of what was discussed was location-based, right? It was a discussion about grade banding, right? And there was discussion about location, right? And I would say also, like, I think my big takeaway from the whole facility master planning process is about sort of the real estate, right? And, we've, said that, thinking about these locations and real estate shorter term rather than longer term might be really beneficial for us. So an output from this process might very well be that we start thinking more seriously about what locations are feasible. And if that be publicly owned spaces like Munson Springs or a place that's green space right now, or the Land Lab, how we kind of not lock those things in, but at least think more officially about them, or even, consider investing somehow in options to purchase in the future, or land if it's going to be highlighted as, essential as a part of this plan.
Well, one of the ways we do that, we discussed earlier with the capital projects,
Exactly.
we have to have the cash
Yeah.
to purchase land
Right.
if needed.
Yeah, but it might be important to set aside cash to purchase land. if you know
Exactly.
That's
I mean,
going to
that's-
be a
that-
future
That's what
investment.
I'm saying. We can do that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't think you meant the land lab.
No, the land at the
Yeah.
GIS, like
Right,
make sure
yes,
we're not
yes.
gonna tell
Yeah.
that for someone else, or make sure that's what we need, we don't need other land or whatever. Right.
Yeah.
And you also said green space. Are you referring to the green space program? Or are you just referring to undeveloped land?
Undeveloped, there's currently undeveloped land that's in the green space in various ways, and maybe some land is just owned by the township, but not under green space and so forth. I
I was
don't
going to say,
know.
the green space stuff is not an option, right? It's got easements on it. You
Yeah.
understand that?
Yeah, so, but I think that out of this process of looking at transportation and location and things like that, it's important that we sooner rather than later kind of, if not settle, at least kind of have options on, right, where things go, because if we wait too long with that, some of the places that could be potential options might not be in the future.
I think it's always, I think your initial point is always good to understand the real estate market.
Yeah.
And where land is available, that is potentially something that the school district can purchase. Whether it's used in the next 20 years or 40 years, that's up to future boards to decide. But owning real estate from the standpoint of having options is not a bad idea.
And it was good that there were representatives of the village that have been participating in this conversation relative to Munson Springs, and I don't know, I'm not gonna say that's the right option or not the right option and things like that, but it would be a shame for a parcel like that to not be available because of other decisions that are made because they committed to something else and so forth. So I think that kind of clarifying our real estate needs, if not, finding ways to set aside funds to make sure that we can acquire them when those opportunities exist, I think is an important output of the whole process.
I have a question that's a little bit more around education. So am I correct in that
the first two options that don't have that second phase would allow students to be in one, to make one move. If there's a move to be made, they do one move, but those second two options, there's like two moves. Some students would have two moves.
So in,
You know what I'm saying, or no? Is that
so
clear?
in the grade banded option, there's multiple moves. So that was, grade band was option one.
I think,
there
are
are
you
multiple.
referring to like the building would start off as K6 and then it would move to K5?
Yeah, the buildings would sort of change.
That's more.
But you could
for
phase that in a way
Yes.
that it's not impacting kids. So in the year that it changes from a K to 5 to, or a K to 6 to a K to 5, you move 2 grades at the same time.
Got it, okay. I don't quite get it, but, okay, so it doesn't necessarily, the options don't necessarily mean like, oh, option 1 and 2, kids are moving less, or it doesn't, and kids are moving more.
The
for
kids are
second
gonna
grade.
be moving the most in the grade band option.
Number 1.
Which I think is 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's kind of one of the fundamental decisions, is how grade banded we are or not. But I think all options eventually would need 2 buildings effectively. So it's because 2 of the options had less capital cost, right? Those 2 options would not necessarily accommodate the same number of students long-term, because you're only building 1 building.
All options won't need 2 new buildings.
Longer term.
Longer term.
They would.
Yeah. Yeah, they would need an elementary and a middle school. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, but that's not on here.
It's
Yeah.
not really, but I think the options were developed in order to kind of ferret out a conversation, right? And
Okay.
really start to
Okay.
understand that. And it's so hard to know long-term what the timing for enrollment growth is going to be and when 1 or 2 buildings is going to be required. But there was a capital cost difference that's maybe not real because it doesn't fully accommodate the same number of students at the end of the day in all the different options.
Yeah.
I think the first 2, and I might be wrong, but the first 2 include additions, where the
Yes.
second 2 are separate buildings. I
So they
think
would
that's why they
fully
have no cost.
encompass all of
I
the
believe-
enrollment at the end of the, all 4 options at the same enrollment?
I'm not gonna say
Yeah.
for sure that they
Oh, okay.
accommodate the same total number of kids at the end of the
Okay.
day,
Yes.
but that's the fundamental difference in the
Okay.
capital.
They
cost.
do because it's $275 per person.
Okay. Well, so then that would also address, there would be an operating cost impact.
Yes.
Right? Because
Everything has an
Well, but
operating cost.
an additional building, right, for the same number of students would have more operating costs per student, if you will.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Whereas
Yes, there are
fewer,
always,
yeah,
Yeah.
well, additions on existing buildings don't require additional
As much,
administrators.
yeah, as much as, yeah, correct.
Okay, thank you. I understand that better now.
But I would still
But
say
you-
a majority of the cost is
Yeah.
going to be the same, so yeah, you're not gonna have an administrator, but a majority of the costs are the teachers.
Yeah, oh, yeah, right,
So-
right, there's nothing you do about that.
So, right,
Yeah,
but they're,
yeah.
so they're similar, there are going to be minor differences.
but if you do have a building that goes from 600 kids to 800 kids, you're gonna have additional staff
Right.
of the other
Yeah,
category
yeah.
as well. Because 800 kids is a lot of kids in a big
Yeah. It seems like there's some staff roles, whether it just be the principal or the nurse or some other kinds of special education needs and so forth that are more need 1 per building, right?
Yeah.
That would benefit from additions to existing buildings and 1 additional structure as opposed to 2.
Correct.
Interesting. Well, lots to be done there and so forth. So the task force gets together again
They
to
do.
look at all the feedback
Yes.
and put together a recommendation?
There
or
will
a
be some
series of-
guiding principles established and kind of a roadmap for you to consider from the feedback.
I just want to thank the community for participating. And if you weren't able to make all of them, or the last one, or missed 2, I'd encourage you to get on the website and take a look at everything, and please share your opinions and input, because it's really important to the board and to the administration, the district staff, so.
And yeah, I think it's very clear that we're all still processing and figuring it out. I don't think any one of us is like, oh, this is perfect, let's get everyone on board for this, you know, so I think
Right.
feedback's really important.
I'll repeat Mr. Brown, it's pencil. So,
Okay?
Any other board reports or report outs?
Ready for the actions?
yep, ready for the action, Jim.
All right, 11.01 is the board policy adoption. Obviously, there's a very long list of board policy adoptions that were part of the last meeting's first reading. Any questions on any of those?
And some of these will drive changes in the handbooks.
Yes, absolutely.
That will be done for next school year effectively.
Correct.
Because there's a lot of changes that were incorporated in this that have a lot of implications.
Yes. And I anticipate coming out of the budget, there will be a lot more that we will be adjusting even further after the summer recess.
I'm sure.
Is there a motion?
Second.
Any other discussion? Please take the roll.
Ms. Deeds?
Aye.
Mr. Cronk?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Ms. Shaw?
Aye.
Mr. Wolf?
Aye.
11.02, approval of resolution of the special education model policies and procedures.
So moved.
And if you think, didn't we just do this? The answer is yes, and then they made some changes, and so now we're doing it again. So rinse and repeat.
Who made the changes?
Department head.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Do we anticipate any more changes
Coming from the Department of Education, given the dynamic nature of that organization and how that
impacts things in general?
Not
Who
in
knows?
this area, but yes. Even though there have been changes at the federal level, there's also been more compliance-oriented items that have been sent to the state and to the local educational agencies.
So do you anticipate that that's just a shuffle from this in terms of the
wouldn't describe it as
regulations
a
or whatever,
shuffle.
from the federal to the state level? It's really an upheaval.
Some of that will be a shuffle. Some of the oversight isn't a shuffle, it's just a new oversight.
We haven't really heard anything on federal funding too. Like that's a big piece that's so in the air. Even just the Title I piece that went away last year that potentially could have come back this year, we won't know that until probably June. And then the rest is still kind of in limbo as well, as the budget is still going through its process at the federal level as well.
Okay, thank you.
Take the roll, please.
Mr. Cronk?
Aye.
Ms. Deeds?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Ms. Shaw? Aye. Mr. Wolf?
Aye.
11.03, approval of the collective bargaining agreement with the Granville Education Association.
So moved.
Okay, I would like to thank our partners at the Granville Education Association. Mr. Stewart is the president of the association, who's recognized tonight. We had a very collaborative negotiation process where we expressed mutual interests, and I think we have a lot of respect for the work that our staff does, and the board recognizes that, and we appreciate their negotiating team coming in good faith and negotiating with the association for a 3-year, or with the admission board for a 3-year term. So thank you, Mr. Stewart, and please pass along the thanks to your team.
Absolutely.
Take the roll, please.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Ms. Shaw? Aye. Ms. Deeds?
Aye.
Mr. Cronk?
Aye.
Mr. Wolf?
Aye.
Thank you very much. 11.04 is the approval of Blue Technologies Agreement for district copiers.
So moved.
Second.
Copiers, jeez.
Well, we need them.
No, I.
So we've actually been in a 5-year agreement with Blue Technologies previously. We're happy with their level of service. We'll be getting all new machinery. So we're moving forward with another 5-year term.
How much do we spend on printing, copying, paper stuff?
Oh,
So it's like a little over 6,000 a month, I think. That's not very.
Yeah, the per page cost is .0035 cents per page.
But $6,000.
yeah.
Okay.
Take the roll, please.
Ms. Shaw?
Aye.
Mr. Cronk?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Ms. Deeds?
Aye.
Mr. Wolf?
Aye.
11.05 is the communication support contract for the 25-26 school year with Kane Learning.
So moved.
Second.
So this is our communications consultant, Kane Learning, who works with us on social media, website, and a lot of the communication documents that we create, including PowerPoints and other distribution materials, so including the district mailer. So our contract is about $35,000 annually.
That's great. I appreciate their support. They've had a lot of traction on social media and the different channels and things like that, and it's nice to have their support across the board.
Take the roll, please.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Cronk?
Aye.
Ms. Deeds?
Aye.
Ms. Shaw?
Aye.
Mr. Wolf?
Aye.
11.06, approval of a land lease with Dan Van Ness.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, as you know that we farm the backside of the GIS property. We don't. We enter into a lease agreement for a farmer to farm that area. We went through a process of soliciting private bids, and Mr. Van Ness was the high bidder. So we are going to continue to enter into that process and agreement with him.
What's the revenue from that expected?
It's about $10,000 a year. The amount per square foot was significantly above the statewide average.
Great.
Please take the roll.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Ms. Shaw?
Aye.
Ms. Deeds?
Aye.
Mr. Cronk?
Aye.
Mr. Wolf?
Aye.
11.07 is the Licking Regional ESC contracts for 25-26 school year, including general services and early education services with students with disabilities.
So moved.
Second.
Nothing more to say.
Take the roll, please.
Ms. Deeds?
Aye.
Ms. Shaw?
Aye.
Mr. Cronk?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Wolf?
Aye.
Thank you. 11.08 is the approval of the Meta service agreement. This is the general services agreement with Meta.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, thank you. As you know, we've been going through the transition process with Meta. This is the overall service agreement. So it's internet services, student information services, fiscal services, which is a pass-through to another entity, library services, and data connectivity.
Will this boost the internet at the athletic complex front gate? To buy last minute tickets.
John, you need to volunteer at the back.
Yeah.
There's less answers.
The answer is no.
Okay.
Take the roll, please.
Mr. Cronk?
Aye.
Ms. Deeds?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Ms. Shaw?
Aye.
Mr. Wolf?
Aye.
11.09 is the approval of the agreement with Argyle Photography.
So moved.
Second.
Argyle has been our provider for student photos, not only yearbook photos, class photos, sports photos, music photos, all the photos that we've been doing. And we went through a process to renegotiate that 3-year agreement.
Take the roll, please.
Ms. Deeds?
Aye.
Mr. Cronk?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Ms. Shaw?
Aye.
Mr. Wolf?
Aye.
11.10 is the approval of the resolution with Scioto Custodial Services.
So moved.
Second.
Actually, sorry about that. So we went through an RFP process to find a new custodial service. We've been with Harvard, who was also utilizing a third party. We opened up that process. Scioto is mostly out of the Cincinnati area in their K-12 experience. They're moving into this market. They have a pretty large network of contracts within Ohio, and we're looking forward to that transition to improve the cleanliness of our buildings. and provide more reliable support for our custodial services. What you're approving is our selection of Scioto, but then I go into a scope of work contract negotiation with them to which will then also be approved in the future, but we wanted to make the initial decision.
Is that a summertime switch?
Yeah. Yep. So they will start, I believe, June 1st.
Will they be able to transition any employees that are currently familiar with our buildings and so forth?
We do have some, we will communicate to them employees that are of value that we would like to maintain.
And I assume that the lessons that we've learned through this contractual process in the past will be integrated into the new contract?
We will continue to try, yes.
We're learning more every day.
Yes. I mean, by the 8th time, maybe we'll get it right. Although the market is absolutely dynamic.
Yeah.
Take the roll, please.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Cron?
Aye.
Ms. Deeds?
Aye.
Ms. Shaw? Mr. Wolf?
Aye.
1111 is the approval of the resolution authorizing an agreement with Bright Rug Company.
So moved.
Second?
So now we're getting into the summer months projects through permanent improvement dollars. So we've identified several rooms that will be replacing rug with LVT and doing that work over the summer.
Take the roll, please.
Ms. Deeds?
Aye.
Mr. Cron?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Ms. Shaw?
Aye.
Mr. Wolf?
Aye.
11.12 is the approval of resolution with Armor Paving and Sealing.
So moved.
Second.
One of the main things that we will be accomplishing with Armor Paving and Sealing is, if you've driven into the high school, you know those culverts are sinking. Those will be addressed through this process. So all 3 culverts will be addressed through this summer contract work.
Slows kids down, though.
It does, but it also bottoms them out.
Will they paint line, will they do the painting again, like redo the lines and the?
I'm not sure about the paint. We have a cycle that we go through for that process, so I'm assuming that we will continue to do that cycle.
Okay, it's, yeah, because you can't see it.
I'll correct myself too, it slows parents down too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Take the roll, please.
Mr. Gronk?
Aye.
Ms. Deeds?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Ms. Shaw?
Aye.
Mr. Wolf?
Aye.
11.13 is the approval of the agreement with Daktronics Sports Marketing.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so this is for the purchase of scoreboards at the middle school and high school gymnasiums for full replacement. The cost of this is being donated by Kiwanis, who's also on the agenda for their donation, and the Athletic Boosters. So the full cost of that project is being absorbed by those 2 entities.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kiwanis and Athletic Boosters.
Yes, thank you very much. Take the roll, please.
Apparently friends. Oh, Kiwanis. Yes. All right.
Mr. Cron?
Aye.
Ms. Shaw?
Aye.
Ms. Deeds?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Wolf?
Aye.
All right. Approval of the agreement with Musco Sports Lighting.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, so right now we have a ballast system that we did not replace when we updated the athletic complex. Those are starting to fail, and it's hard to get replacements, and they take a very long time to restart. And if you were at the football game last year where we lost power and we went dark for about 30 minutes, with a full stadium, you'll know why we want to switch to LED. It's more cost effective, but also, I think, a safety perspective.
What's the upfront cost?
$199,000. But we are using our poles, existing poles. So they're gonna retree them, basically.
Take a roll, please.
Ms. Deeds?
Aye.
Mr. Crum?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Ms. Shaw?
Aye.
Mr. Wolf?
Aye.
11.15 is the approval of the resolution approving the agreement with Train USA Inc.
So moved.
Second.
And so we have actually 2 HVAC projects going on this summer. One that had previously been included in the capital projects fund, and this is the second of the 2. We continue to make progress on our HVAC replacement, which is why when Fanning and Howie did our facility assessment, they gave us pretty high marks on our HVAC replacement cycle and where we're at with maintaining those systems. So, and again, it's better to do these now, anything that could occur from a procurement standpoint, from tariffs to whatever. So we're gonna try and get those done this summer.
Take the roll, please.
Ms. Deeds?
Aye.
Ms. Shaw?
Aye.
Mr. Crum?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Wolf?
Aye.
Consent agenda 12.01A through D, is it D? Or C6? Okay, A through C6.
So moved.
Okay, we will again recognize the donation from the Kiwanis Foundation in the amount of $60,000 for the gymnasium scoreboards. And we will also recognize the Attorney General's safety school grant for $40,000 for safety services and equipment. And then we have an athletic booster donation of $22,000 for the gymnasium scoreboard installation, electric, and then the sports media club advisor. So that is a person that's working with our students to create the graphics that go on the scoreboards.
Cool. And I think there's quite a bit of excitement from the students about participating, and things I've heard about this advisor are great. I mean, he's really engaged with them, and there's a lot of middle school students that want to get involved too, which is really exciting.
Cool. Yeah. And then I referenced Kim earlier, Kim Gary for the Library and Media Center Specialist. Remember, that is a replacement of Sally Gumry, who left at the beginning part of this year. So we're excited to have her joining our team, and you can see her in the certified contracts and the extended time to get her up to speed. And then the rest are pretty consistent items. And that's it.
Take the roll, please.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Ms. Shaw?
Aye.
Ms. Deeds?
Aye.
Mr. Crum?
Aye.
Mr. Wolf?
Aye.
Item 13.01, approval of the March 2025 financial report.
So moved.
Second?
Award winning. Take the roll, please.
Ms. Deeds?
Aye.
Mr. Crum?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Ms. Shaw?
Aye.
Mr. Wolf?
Aye.
Item 13.02, approval of the permanent appropriation resolution.
So moved.
Second?
We had 2 adjustments, a couple $100 each on federal funds for this year, so I have to approve the increase for both of those funds so that we can spend those. It's very minor.
Take the roll, please.
Ms. Shaw?
Aye.
Mr. Crum?
Aye.
Ms. Deeds?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Wolf?
Aye. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Deeds?
Aye.
Ms. Shaw?
Aye.
Mr. Crum?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Wolf?
Aye. Thank you, everyone.